Alright, what's up y'all, LakerFan here. As I was about to title today's video, we're here to talk about how shooting has changed forever in 2K25. And I don't mean that as like a hook title or anything like that. That's just here to draw you in. I'm so serious. Like, this is actually some very interesting news and some very game-changing stuff. So as you can see, we have those highlighted in my little notes here, just going over what I was gonna talk about in today's video. So we have go-to shots, a mechanic where if you just hold up on your right stick, it'll get into a specific animation that you could probably just set, and boom, it'll just play out in animation as a hop jumper, or just all types of things like a Luka step back jumper, stuff like that. You get what I'm saying? Things that you can just initiate as a move that will chain into something that just is a set animation. We have shot canceling as a mechanic now, so if you get into a hop jumper or certain different types of animations, I'm sure you can't just cancel out of, let's say, like a dribble pull-up, where like literally if you pick the ball up with two hands, I don't think you can just cancel out of something like that. I'm sure it'll be selective, but shot canceling is definitely an interesting mechanic that I am very intrigued to see how it can be developed as the year goes on. We have shot timing profiles, so there's a couple different things we'll talk about with this when we get to that point. It's a very in-depth part of the video, so we'll save that for probably, you know, its own specific portion. I don't want to get way too complicated at the beginning here. We have custom visual cues, so for instance, you can now set your visual cue of your jump shot to exactly wherever in the point of it you want, rather than it being set, release, you know, push, all types of stuff like that. Well, like I said, we'll explain a lot more like broad into these types of categories as we get into the video. I'm just here to kind of explain to you guys what you're gonna see in today's vid. Now, rhythm shooting here is an addition that I'm really excited to see how it develops. I know a lot of people are gonna call it cringe. A lot of, you know, traditional comp 2K players are gonna be like, that's stupid, I'm sticking to my X button stuff. A lot of the, you know, kind of casuals that happen to just find this as a niche are going to get, you know, accused for cheating because they've never been good, and now all of a sudden they are good because it fits a skill set that maybe is more so tuned to them than it is X button shooting. I'm here for all the nonsense that 2K community just, you know, develops on its own, and it's just so expected, and it's something that I already know is coming. But I'm intrigued to see how some people can develop with the rhythm shooting. I was under the impression that maybe you'd have to aim it very precisely straight down and straight up, and I'm never really good with stuff like that in video games, but it sounds to me like it's more of just you're timing your jump shot, but with the right stick, rather. You're going to hold it down to start it, and then you're going to flick it up as it would, like, pretty much, you would imagine your player, like if you would hold it down to kind of gain the power in your legs, and then as you would jump up, you're releasing it up to be in unison with your jump shot. That's to me what it sounds like, and I think that's actually a really cool addition, and maybe you'll see some people really get good at this, because we'll get into it later in the video, but this is something that's actually going to be, according to Mike, a really improved mechanic that will actually help your shooting a lot. We also have the contest system briefly being talked about. That's what I put the slightly here for. New court spacing is very intriguing in terms of how it affects shooting. Not to mention it's just going to affect the whole rest of the game between pick and roll, 5 out, how that all develops and stuff like that. But we're here to just talk about shooting stuff in today's video. In case you guys didn't notice, you know, this video is all about shooting, and we're going to have the next couple of videos for the next couple of days as Mike continues to release some info. Talk about like the playmaking individually in another video, also individually talk about finishing, and then individually talk about defense in another one as well. So we'll get all that out over the next couple of days, and then when they start talking about the My Player Builder stuff, we'll segue into that instead of talking about these segmented little, you know, notes and stuff like that. But anyway, let's get into some actual, like, you know, detail rather than just my notes. I know we spent a lot of portion of the early video talking about just things that I wrote down here, but I wanted to make it really easy for you guys to digest in this video for those who did want to sit down and really process this whole thing and understand it in a much easier way that's less confusing. Alright, so in here we have a lot of those little segments that I was just showing in the notes, and I want to kind of give you guys the breakdown on them and understand how they're going to work. So this is the signature go-to shots that I was talking about. So like for instance with Tatum right here, you can see a little step back. Apparently to do this, you're going to be holding up on your right stick, like straight up, I guess. And this will be your signature shot that you have equipped, and it'll just have this step back implemented in it. Or I'm not exactly sure how it's going to work, but, and I don't know what the heck the Curry thing is right here. Like, there's no way this is a signature shot, right? I mean, there's no way holding up on your right stick while doing a layup is going to do this, right? I mean, maybe. I don't know. But then you got Halliburton doing the step back. They kind of cut off this animation, like, into the second, like, back half of it, if you will. So you only see, like, the step back. But as you can see, it created space from left moving to right and, you know, pulls it back to his shooting hand. Long story short, a couple signature go-to shots as an example, and I'm here to read to you some of this stuff as well. So for those who wanted a very brief like kind of synopsis on how this breakdown stuff is going to go, the notes are probably good enough for you, but I'm here to give it a little bit more in-depth breakdown on all this stuff now. So with 2K24, we introduced dribble breakdowns, you know, like for instance, when you hold RT and flick up, or when you don't hold RT and flick up. I completely took advantage of those when it came to the slashing style with the LaMelo Ball regular breakdown combo and then the normal aggressive breakdown combo when I was on a big. I was using that to get into the dead zone, and long story short, it would do a dribble chain that would move you forward in most cases. Sometimes it would move you backwards as well. Like for I think, like for instance, a Michael Jordan one was somewhat decent at moving slightly backwards. But anyway, in 2K24, yada yada, introduced the dribble breakdown combos, sequence of signature size of moves, blah blah blah. In 2K25, we took the concept a bit further. Holding up on the pro stick will trigger signature go-to shots, which features some of the most exciting dribble into shot combos, directly translated from NBA footage. Another feature driven by pro play technology. So my mind references, like for instance, like a Luka step back jumper, you know, like on Gobert getting him ISO'd and stuff, and then he just, you know, classic, he's not really that fast but like he cooked them in ISO, and you know, that's just the type of stuff I'm expecting out of that, is a lot of step back jumpers, a lot of stuff like that, I would have to assume. I'm actually intrigued to see if there's going to be anything other than just step back jumpers, to be honest, because I mean, you think about a signature go-to shot, I don't really know something that's like spammable in NBA terms other than step back shots, realistically. I mean, like, I can't really think of someone else's signature shot minus like obviously dribble pull-ups from KD and stuff like that, or just etc, things that are already animations in the game. Now, to be fair, I guess hop jumpers backwards are still in animation, so I don't know. I'm very intrigued to see what the go-to shot, like, you know, SIGs are going to look like and stuff like that, or if this is just an NBA player thing and you can't even put these animations on your player. Not exactly sure how it's going to work, but we'll find out, obviously. Anyway, shot canceling. We talked about that in the little preview of the video as well. We're also implementing a new shot canceling feature that lets you break out of any advanced shot at any time to transition to other moves. So we have things like a more robust hezzy or shot fake coupled with signature go-to shots. I'm assuming things like hop jumpers and spin jumpers and stuff like that. Maybe. I'm not sure, because that's what I was just talking about. I don't know about dribble pull-ups really like implementing into this. Obviously, it doesn't seem like that'd be something that's very easy to do, because you're going to be like completely picking the ball up off the ground. That would be pretty much a travel, and I think that's going to be not exactly the type of animations you'd be seeing kind of implemented with the shot canceling. I'd have to assume shot canceling is more so only things that can at least fake the shot going up without actually having to pick it up with two hands, essentially. So anyway, besides that, obviously I just wanted to explain to you guys that things like the shot canceling are going to be a very interesting thing. Same with, you know, talking about it with a step back jumper. I'm guessing that also means like hop jumpers and stuff like that too, backwards. That's already kind of been a thing, technically, being able to cancel hop jumpers, but it kind of went away a little bit last year. I don't know why either, but I remember in 23, I was doing that a lot with the Kyle Lowry hop jumper on a smaller guard when I was picking that up late in the year, and I loved doing it. I was able to just like sprint down the court and hold back to my offhand, and it would just completely like pull it back and not have to make me take the shot or anything like that either. But there's a very really good like thing to add as far as like dribbling that's technically using it as a shot mechanic that I really liked. So next up, we have shot timing profiles. Let me go ahead and zoom this in a little bit more as well so you guys can see it. But it's in the settings right here, controller settings, and I'm very intrigued to start looking at all these controller setting things on my own when I get into the game, obviously. But we have a lot of multitude of different things here. So I was trying to break this down myself and figure out how exactly this works, because I believe difficulty based is just the set thing that you put regardless of, like, you know, this is the default, I guess, right? And I guess this is supposed to mean like if you're on rookie, all-star, Hall of Fame, etc, that it would like kind of just fine tune itself through that. I don't know how that's supposed to work or what the heck that even means, to be honest with you. I'm assuming more people are going to go between these three right here, obviously. And real play percentage doesn't work online. That's going to be in the Twitter notes that I bookmarked and all that stuff for you guys to be able to see as well. But yeah, and to be fair, I'm going to be real with you guys. This is just my own little segue opinion on this part of the video. I think they should actually bring real player percentage back into online modes. And I know that's coming from Mr. Can't Shoot, and I wouldn't use it myself anyway, even if I were trying to shoot. But in this world where everybody just is clamoring about like Zens have taken over the game, competitive players are shooting contested like crazy, you know, at the end of the day, if you, me personally, and I know a lot of the guys that I play with, if me or them or we as a collective lose to someone who is using real player percentage, that's terrible on our end. Like, if you're a competitive player and you lose to someone who's using real player percentage and it's only gonna hit at about like a 50% rate or something like that, honestly, that's just bad on you at that point as well. That's just my own little segue that I had to talk about when it comes to real player percentage, because the more I thought about it, I don't know why this is really such a shamed upon thing, as if it's like cheesing or an exploit. This is just like overall gonna give you bad production, or at least it used to back in the day. And, you know, yes, it turns the brain off a little bit more, but it maybe allows people with terrible internet to actually still put up a reasonable shooting percent rather than, like, you know, 19%, 20%, stuff like that. And again, that's where I'm just saying, if someone's that bad, I don't think it's the end of the world if they get handicapped a little bit up to like a 40% or something like that. I know it's very odd take to have when you're someone who wants like skill-based things to be very productive, but I'm telling you, in this world that we're looking at in 2K right now, where people are hitting contested shots like crazy if they are good enough, and, you know, people are shooting like 80% wide open and stuff, I don't think it's the end of the world to let someone who's bad at the game shoot a baseline 40%, and then they'd probably stop complaining about the shooting just in general as well. But anyway, sorry, long segue right there. But anyway, let's get into the low risk, normal risk, and high risk reward stuff. So this is pretty simple. You just think low risk, low reward. It's about as simple as that. And you think normal risk, normal reward. High risk, high reward. That's as easy as it is as far as breaking it down in your mind. And essentially what that means is if you go high risk, high reward, that means it's going to be the way that the greens work this year, where you cannot make whites at all, but your green window will be bigger. You have the normal risk, normal reward, which I don't really know how it's exactly supposed to work. But then with the low one, it's a much more incapable ability to green. However, you have a much more like vast expansion of ability to hit whites. Now, to be fair, that's almost exactly what I was talking about with real player percentage, just still your skill factored in at least a little bit, you know? So it seems to me like low risk, low reward is going to be a lot more along the lines of real player percentage, and then high risk, high reward is going to be a lot more along the lines of the shooting mechanics that we had for this year. I don't know what normal risk is supposed to be looking like, whether that means maybe it's something along the lines of how traditional shooting worked back in the day between 2K17 to 18 to 19 to 20 and stuff like that, when it wasn't just greens only. However, still puts in some like more, you know, a bigger gap of factor of your timing than low risk would do. So I know I'm going a little bit too into detail with that, but it's at least something that's very intriguing to me, and I think that's actually going to be something that, you know, we see a lot of different multitudes of people that really want to use each of the modes. Alright, so then we have custom visual cues. This one I was just talking about earlier. We don't really need to read the whole thing out or anything like that. Like I told you guys, last year we had things like jump, set point, push, release, stuff like that. This year it allows you to customize that and put it wherever you want within that gap and stuff. So you'll be able, and I'm really intrigued to see how the interface on that works as well. Like if they're gonna let you kind of put a slider essentially, rather than just 4 preset points, if you get what I'm saying. I think that makes a lot of sense, and that seems like the most realistic thing they would do. Because, like I said, I'm really intrigued to see how the interface on that would actually work in terms of customizing where you want to put that. So, anyway, moving along, obviously, you know, pro stick rhythm shooting. This is what I was talking about, and this is where I think it's going to change shooting a lot. And I know, you know, my boy AK and stuff, for instance, if I had to, like, judge him or guess how he's going to be looking at something like this, I'm sure, you know, he's been doing this stuff for so many years and he's been good at it for a long time too, that he would probably just want to stick with his X button traditional shooting, you know? And I'm sure a lot of people are going to be on that as well. But adaptation is a very big part when it comes to these games, you know? And he knows that very well as well. If you've been good in this game for literally like 8 years, all the way back to 2K17 and 16 and 15 when they implemented this multiplayer stuff, and you've been good throughout that whole process, I am positive that you've been good at adaptation, you know? It's just as simple as that. So adapting is going to be a very big part when it comes to, you know, everything to do with 2K. And in this case, shooting seems to be getting its first revamp in that sense, where this could be a really big deal, I think. Now, I'm familiar with a mechanic like this. With the dunk meter, you had to flick up and hold down, or vice versa, and stuff like that as well, in previous years, you know, all the way back to since 2K22, and then into 23, 24 as well. So we've had the dunk meter for quite some time now, and this seems to function kind of the same way, you know, not exactly the same way, but it's in a very similar, like, people are clowning it for being Mortal Kombat combos and stuff like that. It's really not that complicated, bro. It's literally just you hold down and then hold up, you know, when the motion appears to be so. So let's go ahead and read this one fully out because I still have to understand it a little bit more as well. So while all shooting control methods from 2K24 are returning, 2K25 introduces a brand new way to shoot called Pro Stick Rhythm Shooting. Instead of simply pressing and releasing the shot button or stick, you first pull down the shot stick, aka the right stick, down to start the shot. Then, as you see your player's jump shot animation reach its set point. Now, that's where I've been kind of struggling. What exactly does this mean? I know I'm maybe lacking basketball terminology when I don't really know what a set point is. And I really do apologize that I don't know what a freaking set point is, to be honest with you. But I'm assuming it's more so like before your player starts to jump, essentially. Like, at least that's what I'm guessing. Anyway, point being, you're going to hold down on your right stick to rise up with your player, and then as you go up, you're gonna hold up on the right stick and then release it as you release the ball. I'd have to assume, you know. So long story short, you're matching up your motion of the stick with the motion of your player is pretty much what I'm getting at. So anyway, you push the stick up and try to match the timing and speed of the player's push motion. This intuitive down-up motion of the shot stick rewards you for accurately mimicking each player's signature shooting motion. So I think this is going to be a really cool thing to see if people are going to actually get behind or anything like that. Again, we have, you know, things like rhythm shooting, the go-to shot, stuff like that. A player who masters rhythm shooting will raise their ceiling and outplay someone who uses traditional shooting, and that's what I'm talking about. If this is really true, and trust me, I understand, there are some things that we can't believe, and there are some things that we can believe when it comes to what we hear out of the devs and stuff like that, more often than not. But when it comes to when they talk about things giving you a shooting boost for using a more challenging thing, obviously, like when you take off your shot meter, we all know that clearly raises your window of greening shots, and I'm assuming this is also going to be kind of similar in that case, but with a little bit more of a risk reward, where, you know, obviously maybe you can screw up the timing just a little bit more because you're not used to the flicking of the stick rather than the timing of just the X button. But to me, this makes a lot of sense, and I'm actually intrigued if I ever were gonna shoot the ball a little bit going into this year. I don't know, a lot of you guys who may not be familiar with my channel don't know I'm just a slasher for the most part. Slasher, big man, kind of screen setter, pick and roller. So I play on insides a lot more often than not, but if I ever were to touch some shooting stuff this year, I think I'd actually be intrigued to try this out a little bit. It seems very easy to understand for my brain a little bit, as long as I understand what a freaking set point is, apparently. But anyway, creating more possibilities to demonstrate your skills. Your selected shot timing profile also applies to rhythm shooting. Okay, that's cool too, because I didn't know that'd be the case. So the selected shot timing profile. So this is going to be, for instance, your low risk or high risk experience, yada yada. So you combine your right stick timing essentially with also deciding whether you want to put it to low, normal, or high risk. So I guess that's going to be another interesting thing to kind of understand too, is whether you go with like a normal risk or low risk, but then you get the buff from the right stick shooting, or the rhythm shooting, I should say. I'm going to be really interested to see how that all kind of combos and stuff like that, or if people go high risk with the rhythm shooting, and that's going to be like the biggest green window possible, I suppose, or the most reward, if you will, for the best skill-based thing possible. You know, you have like high risk, rhythm shooting, and you have shot meter off. That's like 3 things that are buffing your green window at that point, essentially. So I'm interested for sure. And I mean, bro, if devs can get better at it, you can too. So that's just my take on it. I encourage you guys to be open-minded as far as that when it goes to, you know, beginning of the year, get some shots up with all of it, see how you feel about it. And if you at least see that there's a vision for you to get better at it, I would think, like, you know, at the end of the day, you're brand new to it. So it may be something to actually try and get behind. Who knows? A couple of weeks of doing it, and you might actually be really good at it and set yourself apart from a lot of people. But anyway, when we first introduced rhythm shooting to the rest of the team, here are visual concepts. Many thought it was a bit too challenging, aka they probably dismissed it, just like half the community will. However, those of us who kept practicing grew to love it, and now can't go back to traditional shooting. We've also seen our shooting percentages rise significantly as we've improved with the mechanic. It's actually funny to imagine all these guys like playing against each other in like some rec setting and stuff like that. It's just like, I assume that's the type of stuff they're on. I don't know if they would just be playing against the bots and that's it, but anyway, with shot timing profiles, custom visual cues, signature go-to shots, and the new Pro Stick Rhythm Shooting, 2K25 gives you the ultimate customization over how you shoot the ball. And that's what I was just talking about. Like, this is actually a lot of changing news, in my opinion. I know a lot of people clown about, like, 2K being rinse and repeat, recycle all over and over the same. I'd actually argue, I don't know if I've ever seen back-to-back games that play like the exact same thing, if ever, for that matter. But that's coming from a detailed, like, perspective player that is constantly playing this, like, you know, thousands of hours a year, you know? So it is what it is. Anyway, contest system. For 2K25, made significant changes to the contest system. Now, I read this already, and I'm not exactly sure how to process all this. I don't even know if it's going to be a good thing. I don't know if I like what I hear. I don't know if it's true, because I know contest system is never what they say it exactly is. So take that with a grain of salt before we get into this. But it says, we now use a dynamic weighting system rather than a fixed one. So when I hear the word dynamic rather than fixed, to me that sounds a lot like, you know, for instance, to give you guys some perspective on this, like for instance, the layup meter from last year is that to me is dynamic. It changes as you go, whereas fixed sounds to me a lot more like when you lock something in. That's just what it is. However, then they kind of contradict that with this little sentence right here. So he says that evaluates the impact of defense at the start of the shot versus the release and computes the proper coverage impact accordingly. Now, I don't know if that, like, when I read this, I don't know if I'm trying to, like, decipher whether that means that they're adding more value to this shot contest at the start rather than at the release, or if they're saying that it factors it all in. Because, like I said, I'm not trying to sit here and act like I'm a genius that understands all the interpretations and intuition of how they're trying to go about this. This, to me, is a little bit of a vague sentence, in my opinion. But anyway, I wanted to at least give that info, even though I don't exactly truly know what it means. And then I also wanted to show this, because they mentioned how height was also going to play a factor in the contest system. I didn't accidentally, you know, highlight the whole thing, but oh well. In addition, you'll notice that perimeter and interior defense ratings, as well as the height differential, play a more important role in calculating defensive coverages. Listen, I don't know, man, because last year they were saying that interior D got buffed and stuff like that, but it was like in the stupidest way possible, and I don't really think that's how they intended it to be. So I don't think everything that you read in this stuff is always going to be how they visioned it. You know what I mean? Once the cheesers start getting their hands on it and people start understanding the, like, you know, PvP aspects of it and stuff like that and yada yada, like, you can never really know exactly how interior D and prim D is going to work and how good defense is going to function until you get your hands on the game. That's my true opinion, because I don't think I've ever really been like, oh yeah, see, they said this was going to be in the game. In the courtside report, they were like, see, this is here now. I've never really, like, played the game and been like, oh man, we heard about this feature right here, you know what I mean? Maybe this year's strength, I guess. I finally believe in it, you know, whereas in previous years it was never actually useful or good. That's my opinion again. But anyway, that is all for the shooting and stuff like that. I did want to talk about court spacing. Now, we haven't really got like a legit kind of, and this is more so talking about AI, like, you know, and where they go and how they like fit gaps and stuff like that on defense and offense. But I did want to talk about how they made the court slightly bigger. Now, I can't exactly tell the difference. I don't know if we're going to find a screenshot for you guys on that. We'll probably talk about that another time as well. But anyway, I just want to skip over to the Twitter stuff now and give you some more Mike Wang breakdown. All right, so we're going to go from bottom to top in the bookmarks that I had right here. So let me see. Can I make this any bigger for you guys? Okay, yeah, bet. That's perfect. So they did a little Q&A in the Discord and stuff like that, so Mike was responding to those in some way and just posting them to Twitter as a screenshot. So anyway, he was asking our instant green animations back. So the way I'm interpreting this is essentially when you run simple, you're gonna get like instant feedback that'll tell you greened it as soon as you shot it. However, you won't see the contest, essentially, and that's at least what I'm interpreting, because he says right here, if you want full shot feedback, which includes defensive coverage, you'll want to change the visibility settings to all shots. Full shot feedback is delayed, just like it was in 2K24. So I'm guessing that's how I'm taking that. I don't think you're going to see the contest instantly, and I'm assuming that because it sounds a lot of like a contrasting like situation here, where if you're going to run the full shot feedback, it sounds like you won't be able to see the instant green, essentially, right? Whereas if you do run simple, it sounds like you'll see the instant green, but you can't see the impact on the contest. I don't know exactly how it's supposed to work. Like I said, I wish I was a psychic and just knew how to read minds. You guys can feel free to drop some comments on these questionable parts of the video that I'm going over and see if you have a better like insight on some of these things than I do, because I'm not here to say that I'm, you know, fully understanding things better than you even would. But anyway, let's just keep moving along. Q, as in question. How are shot meters changed in 2K25? We got a glimpse of one in the trailer, and it looked a bit more transparent than previous 2Ks. I'm sure that's just some setting or something like that, because I loaded up an old 2K, or it was even actually last year. I loaded up last year, and my meter was like transparent at the beginning of the year. I'm like, bro, what in the world? I can't even see the freaking thing through like the stanchion and stuff like that, and the baseline and the coloring and stuff on the baseline. It was so bad. But long story short, you just change your meter a little bit to like Comet or something like that, for instance, and boom, now you can see the outline of it a whole lot better. Anyway, Mike goes into a lot of detail on this to pretty much just talk about there are 3 options you can choose from, yada yada. Rather than freezing the meter when you release the shot button, it's going to disappear when you are supposed to release it, essentially. Now, this sounds awful for the sake of like Zens and stuff like that, I would think, at least. You know, maybe not, maybe so. Maybe it twiddles with their function and stuff like that, and maybe it makes it so they have to design a whole new one or something like that. That's my hope, but I don't think that's going to be the case. I would assume this helps them at that, for that matter. I don't know how it all works or anything like that, but for the freaking thing to disappear, I feel like that visually, like, is probably a lot more alarming and pops a lot more for something that's supposed to detect stuff like that. But anyway, regardless, the ideal time to release the button is the exact frame the meter disappears from your screen. It'll make more sense when you try it. One of the main benefits of this change is that shot meters are much more accurate online. He's saying that it compensates for latency a whole lot more on your shots, layups, free throws, yada yada. And again, you don't really know whether you can trust that or not, because you hear it a lot. I don't know, or it's at least something you would expect that they would fix a lot going into the next year. Who knows? I'm willing to take his word for it on that and just assume that the shot meter is going to be a lot less delayed. But it's hard to trust, you know? It just is. Now, I've always said that too. I mean, like, if they could just add like a prefixed amount of like, you know, making the meter disappear earlier or later for like a standard amount of latency that people get online. You know, like, I know that sounds probably ridiculous to some like actual tech wizards and stuff like that. They're thinking, wow, what a, you know, caveman take that is. You know, it's not that simple. I was always just thinking, what if they fixed it a little bit more? On like, from my perspective as a YouTuber, it'd be like if you had an audio track that was out of sync of your visual track, you would splice the audio to move it slightly, like, you know, to fit the actual timing properly, aka the audio is your latency and the video is the video game that you're playing on. Fix the audio to match with the video, and boom, there you go. That's how you would fix the latency, at least at a standard kind of amount. I know it's not going to be perfect because everybody has different latency. Everybody has somewhere between probably like 20 at best to like all the way up to 200 in some cases, but that's milliseconds at the end of the day. If you could split the difference, you know, make it maybe like you account for like 50 milliseconds of latency, boom, now people can find their visual cue somewhere in there. I think that'd be a good idea, at least in my opinion. But anyway, yada yada, it's fully customizable, shot, color, you know, like size, all that stuff. Pause. Anyway, I think we all got the gist of the low risk, high risk, stuff like that. You know, I don't think a lot of this stuff is really worth going over. We got the gist of it for the most part. But yeah, he says there's no margin for error if you put it on the high risk, obviously, which, you know, we understand that. That's how it's been for the last, you know, 365 days of playing the game, or at least, you know, 330. But anyway, they can't really be compared one-to-one. Here, let's see exactly what he's talking about, because he's trying to, you know, try and make the comparison between rhythm shooting with the right stick going to have a bigger green window than just regular button shooting. Can we get a comparison between the two? So the way I see this is, you know, the caveman takes, right? Like, I was thinking initially that it'd be something like along the lines of, well, it's not going to make your green window bigger, it's just going to make it easier to shoot. That's the dumbest thing you could possibly say. That's like technically not how it could work at all. For it to be easier to shoot, it has to expand your green window, you know? So realistically, I'm assuming what Mike is trying to say here pretty much is that it will make your green window bigger, but the added like difficulty to trying to learn a new mechanic like that of holding down and flicking up, you know, and doing all that stuff is supposed to be your penalty in that sense, or the antagonist, if you will, to you having a good time timing your shot and making your green window bigger. Because like I said, I'm assuming what it means is that it's making your green window bigger, but it's making it harder to shoot technically by just the added like kind of skill gap or difficulty in the mechanic itself now. But anyway, when we get past this, it's going to be a little bit more like less important stuff to know. Like, for instance, free throws have been tuned where lower rated free throw players are less effective. RIP to me. I was hitting like 40s and stuff like that, like crazy this year. And you know, I was talking to my brother about that too, because we play Pokemon and stuff like that. And I'm like, bro, when I play 2K, I feel like a 40% really means like 60 or 70 sometimes. And when I'm playing Pokemon, I feel like 90% means like 60. I guess it's more of the risk to it and stuff like that sometimes. But like, for those of you out there, shout out to my Pokemon people. But when you run like 85% accurate moves and stuff like that, oh, it's so cringe. Like, just the idea of missing is just so bad. But like I said, more penalty to doing things like that. If you miss in that, it can be pretty detrimental. But anyway, he's just saying you can't use real player percentage online. We already knew that was going to be the case. But like I said, the low risk seems to be kind of the incentive, or the what's the word? More along the lines of the same thing as real player percentage. It'll be the closest thing you can get. And then pretty much just me showing that he was talking about he's got Jamal Murray's jump shot in here as well from Pro Play. It's way better than the original one. He said we got a new KD Pro Player jumper as well, Pro Play jumper. Because honestly, both these guys' jump shots were terrible for like my league in 2K23 at least. I didn't really play a lot of my league in 24, so I didn't really know too much about this. But man, Jamal Murray's jumper was terrible in 23, and I heard it was bad in 24 as well. KD's jumper in 23 was terrible. I don't really know what it was like in 24. I know it was an okay base, but not everybody really used it for the bigs. And I'll be intrigued to see that as well. The big man jump shots versus the swings and the guards and stuff like that. I'm sure they'll talk about that when we get into the My Player Builder stuff. But anyway, that is all for the 2K25 shooting news, from the, you know, Twitter bookmarks to also just talking about the courtside report stuff, the notes and stuff that we opened the video with. I know it's probably a little bit longer of a video than some anticipated, but like I said, I wanted to give a lot of modules between a really easy to digest beginning of the video that was showing all the kind of summary, and if that's all you wanted out of the video, cool, it's all good. And then if you wanted a more breakdown kind of discussion style, where again, some of these things I don't exactly know how they're gonna work, but I'm just here to at least convey them to you, and then maybe, you know, ask some questions, let you guys leave some comments and see what your interpretation is on it. Because at the end of the day, I'm a player of 2K as well, and just because I'm a creator doesn't mean I know everything, obviously, especially at this stage of the game where it's a lot of guesswork. It's a lot of using your history of 2Ks to understand how you can like digest things in the future. And obviously it'll be a different case when I get my hands on the game, because, you know, I'll be sitting here night to day testing stuff out so you guys don't have to, essentially, you know what I mean? But for right now, I'm about as in the dark as you guys are as well. So it's just a lot of stuff that we gotta overanalyze, you know, and it is what it is. But anyway, that's all video. I hope y'all enjoyed. If you did, feel free to drop a like, sub if you're new to noties, all good stuff. And like always, try to 1 to 1,000 likes. If you did make it to the end of the video, put shot in the comments, search Perch all the way through. And I appreciate you guys if you did watch all the way through. Again, we're gonna be posting videos right after this one, pretty much daily, I'd have to assume, on all the news that drops between defense, finishing, and playmaking and stuff. I gotta assume there's gonna be a lot more to come than just what's been posted right here. Normally when Mike gets into this little sequence here, he gets really like, he's like me, bro. He'll be off Twitter for like you know, such a long time, and then when he does get on it, boom, it's like 30 tweets. So I'm assuming this is gonna continue if he's anything like what I think he is, and I'm sure he'll be on here actively from this point forward now, at this point, you know? So I'm sure we'll get a lot more news. As that does drop, I'm gonna keep on dropping in segmented videos between just shooting, finishing, defense, and playmaking, and hopefully I didn't miss out on too much important news, and if we did, maybe we'll do a recap one at the end of doing all 4 of them. But anyway, that's all video. Hope you all enjoyed, and that, take it easy, man. Peace.